The endless nebula of silver and blue that was the astral plane quivered for a moment. There was an eruption of color, a whirlwind of swirling rainbow light. The blue, boxy form of the Four Deconoline erupted from the center of it, and swerved gently towards what could be taken for a distant star. Inside, the Psy-Squid darted about, leaving trails of bubbles behind it, emanating psychic pulses of pure joy at its ability to move freely once again. Strapped into their seatbelts until they could will up a gravity well that would keep them seated, Miria and Edric felt the grim weight of Abzu lift from them. It was like being able to breathe cool air again after being trapped in stifling heat. And unconsciously they synced up, their heads bobbing to the rhythm of the rock and roll blaring on the 8-track.
Thank the void. I felt like I was slowly going mad in that place.
To be honest, I think we were. In my travels, I've been to places that have an energy to them that just gets into you. It shapes and bends you to the will of whatever spirits occupy that place. I've seen places of beauty that heal the soul the moment you step into them. And I've been to places of incredible evil that turns family against family. I will never doubt the power of the local spirits of a place. But I've experienced nothing like Abzu before. Do you suppose that Tiamat, alive, dead, or whatever she is in between, still has a sway on that place? Like her pain permeates it. Because I'll swear, that's what I felt. Miria thought on this a while, looking back over a century of travel, the wicked desperation of Terak Nor, the scheming silence of her own home palace, the deep air of sorrow about Nar village, the mad energy of the Nilkan soul gardens, the being resting inside her brain.
I think I'd be a fool not to believe. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've seen enough in the last month and a half that doubting it would make me an idiot.
If I didn't believe in the petty gods before running into that caterpillar, I sure do now. I'd consider myself mad not to as well.
The astral plane seems a little different. It's almost as if it is a total absence of a spirit. Or maybe it's so saturated with it that no one feeling can get through.
Except maybe wonder.
You're right. It's hard not to stop and stare at it, isn't it?
The two paused as their music track clicked over, taking in the sights and sounds of the eternal sky of the astral plane.
Aside from the Elsewhales, we hardly saw anything else on our journey through here last time. Let's hope it stays that way.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to dash your hopes. I don't know what those are, but there sure are a lot of them. Welcome to Swords Against Madness, an experiment in gonzo storytelling and solo role-playing. I'm playing a solo game of Swords and Wizardry, amplified by other classic role-playing games like Traveller, and accompanied by solo role-playing tools like the Mythic Game Master emulator. First I play the game, then I turn it into a psychedelic sword and planet audio drama for your entertainment. Swords and Wizardry is based on the original 1974 through 1977 rules to Dungeons & Dragons. It is trippy, fast-paced, and lethal, just the way I like it. There will be no protection for player characters when the dice decide that their number is up. But I do keep this story PG, or at least what passed for PG in the 1980s. If you didn't see it in Temple of Doom, Goonies, or Gremlins, you won't hear about it here. So reload that three-bladed sword. Get comfortable in your studded leather kirtle or your chainmail bikini. Fire up the wizard band. It's time to get weird. Far off beyond the right side of the car, there was a strange storm going on in the astral plane. Crackling networks of ball lightning flared into existence, briefly illuminating some of the darker clouds, and then fading away. In the flashes and flares, they could see silhouetted behind nearby clouds dozens upon dozens of shapes. They were too smooth and too sleek to be anything living. At their center, their spindle-shaped bodies reminded them of ships seen from below. But they did not have sails in the conventional sense. Instead, great fin-like wings reached out from their sides, rippling in an alien psychic wind. While it was impossible to tell size, there was a suggestion of largeness to every last vessel. Most they judged would be the size of a frigate. But some were so immense it was impossible to truly judge what they were seeing. There was a darkness to this flotilla that Miria could feel for herself. Something hungry, something angry, something that reminded her all too much of a military fleet out in the stars. They watched in a silent, creeping sort of awe as the wings of one of the vessels adjusted form and it began to turn and dive in their general direction.
I think I'm going to opt out of this one.
Miria put her foot down on the accelerator and concentrated on the will to move swiftly. And the Econoline lurched and hurtled at her command. They didn't dare look back. They didn't dare do anything, not even speak, until they were far, far away from whatever that was. They hurtled onward for what seemed like hours, until they came to the strange floating debris that looked like some crumbled colossus. Parked in the shadow of a massive hand, it took a moment to catch their breath. And Miria looked inward for answers.
What is it we just saw back there?
That was a fleet of astral warships. Warfare is common among many of the transitory and lower planes. The forces of law that reside in Amber and the forces of chaos that reside in the courts have fought proxy wars across the planes for eons.
What are they fighting over?
They war over the quantum state of the universe. Law wishes the universe to be organized with matter and form, energy and time. More importantly, a universe with good and evil and purpose. Chaos wishes to destabilize all things, to create a formless, meaningless, unpredictable dream world free of constraints. One where powerful minds bend reality to their whim in infinite creative variety.
I'm glad we're not exposed to it on the material plane.
Incorrect. The eternal conflict is fractal. It affects every plane, every social continuum. It is reflected in the behavior of gods, emperors, and even the faranduli in your cells. And all things capable of observation are participants, even if they do not understand it.
Which side do you prefer?
My kind are hyper-quantic observers. We witness the whole, including the eternal conflict from the outside. The very act of observing makes the conflict possible. We are neither army. We are more akin to the battlefield itself.
And what side are we on?
That remains to be seen.
I've modeled my setup for planar travel on Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition. D&D 3rd Edition definitely had its own strengths and weaknesses. It was my go-to edition of the game from the year 2000 straight through to 2014. And I always felt that it didn't quite capture the spirit of D&D as I'd experienced it in high school and before. It took a tonal shift that appeared in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition and amplified it about 100-fold. You were no longer telling the story of a bunch of cut-purses, thieves, mercenaries, and wanderers who are trying to make do in a post-apocalyptic world full of magic and monsters. It had instead transformed into a heroic storytelling game about heroes standing against the tides of darkness. Sure, you were still out for gold and glory, but there was a sense starting in AD&D 2E that your characters were there to save the world. And because of it, battle was something that was glorious, rather than something terrifying. The dungeon was a place to be conquered, not a pit of horrors that you were being cast into. And the monsters were there to be vanquished. 3rd edition turned that all the way up to 11. Heroes were indomitable figures, standing a cut above the average person, and pushed by gods and ambition to tackle dozens upon dozens of increasingly lethal challenges. And it definitely had a rule set that reflected that. And with that, some of the weirdness, some of the psychedelia, some of the Lovecraftian horror that snuck in old AD&D games started to fade out. But there was definitely one place in the game that still felt the same as it did in AD&D. A place where you still felt completely out of your depth, surrounded by wonders and horrors. And that was the plains. Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition handled the plains with incredible skill. Especially once you had the Manual of Planes and the Planar Handbook in your hands. The plains became a place where you sought out wonders, miracles, and strangeness. A place where low-level characters in particular would be out of their depth even if they came from the plains. And a place where you could meet things like beings of pure energy, or entities that wanted to demolish all matter into its component elements. A place with roaming aliens selling magic items as if they were common curios. And a place where demons, Afridi, devils, and angels did business in strange places. In 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, we had the Planescape setting, which turned the plains into a network of places tangled into an eternal war, where player characters were often likely to be wandering Sigil, a place ruled over by a goddess of pain who ensured that it was neutral territory for the conflict between law and chaos. And while Planescape didn't get a 3rd edition revamp, the existence of Sigil was kind of folded into Greyhawk. It was just assumed to be part of the plains. The Epic Level Handbook added in the City of Union, which became the place where the gods went to shop. A city where secrets that were supposedly lost to the ages, ancient and incredible powers, the favor of the gods, and artifacts were swapped and sold, kept secret from those who were not worthy to enter. And these books together created a fairly useful system for planar travel, ones that are well worth stealing, which is exactly what I'm doing here. Any gateway or any plane shift would take you about 500 miles from where you actually wanted to be. And if you were trying to get to the plains using portals to get from one place to another, you'd have a number of jumps you had to do. So you'd arrive at a plane, have to travel somewhere between 5 and 500 miles, then find and figure out how to open the next portal, and so on. There were, of course, a bevy of spells and magical items that would help you figure out which way to go next. All of which I have replaced with a handy psychic squid. Once I knew that the All-Knowing was going to play along, I rolled up this voyage and found that I was going to need to make 5 planar hops. The first one would be to retrace my steps through Amber. After that, it would be another voyage across the astral planes. And from there, I would have to leap to 2 other random planes in order to reach my destination. This required me to detail 20 planes to fit on a table, make the random encounter planes for any of those planes I was going to be seeing for the first little while, import a few other 3rd edition rules I fancied, like the effects of being on a plane opposite your alignment, and settle on a few other ground rules for planar travel. All of which I'm happy to share with you at swordsvmadness.stormheadproductions.ca. But needless to say, with such big epic adventures in front of me, in this case 5 planar hops needed, I'm going to gloss over quite a bit. My journey from Abzu through Amber and then out to the astral plane turned out to be fairly easy. I ran into no random encounters other than seeing a group of soldiers preparing for war. And while that might have had resonance from what I encountered when I entered the astral plane, I have a lot of ground to cover, so I decided I'd just let that one slide on past. What's coming up in the next few planes? That's a different story.
Hi, I'm John from Tale of the Manticore.
Robin from Stories from the First Watch.
PJ from A Wasteland Story and the Solo Roleplayers podcast.
Simon from Legend of the Bones.
Brian Rideout from Swords Against Madness.
Carl from The Lone Adventurer.
And I'm Trevor from Your Story Will Be Different.
And with our solo role-playing audio,
Narrative.
Actual play.
Drama powers combined,
We are the Solo Role Players Podcast Network.
Usually accustomed to delving the depths,
scouring the desert,
Surviving the wasteland,
Or facing the dragon alone.
this time we have teamed up to bring you a curated collection.
of the best.
highest quality.
Most dramatic.
and diciest.
Solo roleplay podcasts in the world.
There are dozens of us.
So if you're looking for your next solo role-playing adventure,
Roll over to soloroleplayersnetwork.com.
Sample and subscribe to something that takes your fancy.
And discover your new favourite solo role-playing podcast.
See you there.
If one was made of stern enough stuff to walk the plain of Ulf, they would see little. Between the naked Cyclopean cliffs that encircled the plain, it was nearly always misty. Besides which it had snowed more often than not, tiny stinging flakes that had piled up the snow so deep that even a giant could be lost in it. If you squinted long enough into the gray haze, you might make out the ghost of trees, or hear the occasional cry of ravens larger than any man. Perhaps if you were very fortunate, you could hear them muttering ancient curses or spells. They were happy to entrance you if they could with their secrets. After all, the kind of sorcerers greedy for their lore were not hardy people. And if they listened long enough, the cold might claim them, at which point they would become a meal for the wise old carrion birds. Color was a rare thing, to say the least. Aside, of course, from the occasional splash of brilliant red that would disappear quickly under the snow when the giants clashed. The crafty old Valravan, who sat on the dying tree near one of the ancient carvings in the mountainside, certainly couldn't remember the last time he'd seen color. Although it is the reason he chose the roost that he had. It had been a century or more since some lore seeker had come that way, but he was in no hurry for his next meal. When the portal did explode open with a thunderous sound, he was startled, forgot why he was there, and issued massive angry croaks as he fluttered from his nest. All was in a half-forgotten confusion as the lights from the color pool opening on the ancient carving threw the whole valley into auroras for a moment. And then a flying object erupted forth, metal, brightly colored, soaring through the air, churning up snow, blasting loud, discordant music that was quickly lost in the snow. The Valravan clicked his beak irritably and settled back on his tree.
Damnable mortals get stranger all the time.
Foreman's van exploded into storms, cloud, wind, fog. Miria pulled up hard and steadied her.
I can't see a thing in this. Kale, what's going on?
Looks like we've dropped in right in a snowstorm.
Where are we?
This place is Jotunheim, a plane of primal elemental ice and storms. The beings that live here are elemental giants with potent magical abilities. Avoid contact with them if at all possible.
Well, what does he say?
Do you remember that song you liked? The one by the band that calls itself Led Zeppelin?
Which one? Dazed and Confused?
No, not that one.
Brawn Our Stomp?
No, try again.
What, Immigrant Song?
That's the one. Yeah, we seem to be there.
Well, I certainly get the ice and snow bit in any case.
Complete with the evil mad giants, too.
Well, that's great.
We're going to have to just follow the squid's tentacle and keep ourselves to the storm. The less visible we are, the better.
Well, I've expended all of my magical power keeping us flying up to this point.
I know. We're going to have to find some place to camp once we've spotted the portal.
Within an hour, Miria was shivering. She was dressed for the Narish jungles and beaches, not for ice and snow. She pulled on corrosion-proof gloves and stuffed herself in a sleeping bag they had found in the back, handing over the wheel to Kale. By the 45-minute mark, the squid complained of ice beginning to form inside his bag. After a near miss with what they'd hoped was a tree and not some grand spear sticking out of the ground, they were forced to go slower. Finding how to control the heaters was a revelation, but with cracked windows and broken door frames, they struggled to stay warm. Miria kept the squid's bag in her lap, huddled against her body for warmth. When her legs went numb, she prayed that it was because of the weight of the bag and not because of the cold. By the time the tip of the squid's tentacle began to dip 5 hours later, they were worried it was more because he was losing consciousness than because they were approaching the gate. They flew as low and slowly as they dared, the wheels leaving faint trails in the piled-up snow. When the gateway finally loomed out of the white haze, it caused their hearts to pump, bringing them the first warmth they've felt in a while. A massive head of basalt rose up from the snow, towering high above them, its crown lost to view. It was a screaming face carved with ornate knotwork to detail its mustache and beard. Its teeth were as tombstones. The hollow of its howling jaw a pit of blackness. Artfully emerging from the vast tangled stone beard was a single slab of stone to serve as an altar, larger than the van. The snow on its top was a muddy red, fading slowly to pink, with the half-dozen carcasses of recently slaughtered elk arranged upon it. We are not alone in this place.
No, but we can't go on. I'm very low on magical energy, and I must keep some back to keep my brain from exploding. We're going to have to park the van around back and hope for the best.
It took them several minutes to circle around the gigantic head. Once they found what they were quite certain was the back, Miria opened the van door and, shivering, aimed the Arakeen bottle. She melted away a groove the shape of the van, and Kale very carefully set the van down inside it.
Hopefully we'll just fit in with the snowdrift.
As the snow piled up, it became dark inside the van, but it also insulated them, finally allowing the heater to do some work. Miria cast the last spell she was able into the device on the ceiling, hoping that it would keep the heater running through the night, but also biting her lip in doubt. I think these sleeping bags slip together. It'll help keep us warm.
You're awfully forward.
Hey, I was only thinking of survival reasons, but I'm glad your mind is going there.
You really are incorrigible.
Honey, I have at least 3 girls in different ports who all call me that.
All right, have it your way. We'll zip the sleeping bags together. I don't want to freeze.
After ensuring that the squid had every possible heater vent aimed directly at his bag, they climbed into a sleeping bag together. As Kale's hand slid slowly and confidently across Miria's hips, she arched cat-like back to him, chuckling softly, and said nothing. Later that night, as he lay up, propped on one arm, caressing her soft and now finally warm skin, he returned the favor by saying nothing when he heard the thunder of distant, massive footsteps. In the morning, Miria had to act fast to cut them free of the snow with the Arakeen bottle. The air had become close, sour, and musky. They were both glad for a blast of fresh air, even if it stung their nose to breathe. They briefly tucked the squid under Kale's shirt, as Miria used the old, befouled salt water to free the wheels from ice. She then conjured him new, fresh, clean, and warm water, casting some now foul and smelly shrimp into the bag behind him. They studied spellbooks together under flickering orange electric light, and then sacrificed one of their hard-gleamed spells into the flux capacitor. The van lifted from the snowbank, raining down chunks of ice and snow as it slowly floated through the mist. They swung it around back to the altar, only to find new, fresh kills strewn about the stone slab. Miria suppressed a shudder as she leant down and began examining the strange runes carved around the end of it.
Well, at least we've got a name for this face here. Ymir. I'm pretty sure we have to offer him something in order to pass. But I get the impression it isn't an animal sacrifice, thankfully. Otherwise we would have heard or felt or sensed something when these were left here.
She brushed some snow off the top of the altar and found it was caked with several inches of ice. Examining it by the pale light of her gauntlet, she caught a gleam. There was gold under there. She thought for a moment, and then fished into her backpack and produced a golden feather of a Kuji bird.
Great Ymir, we wish to pass into the next realm beyond. I offer you this feather of gold as a toll that you might open your portal.
Carefully, she placed the feather on the altar, and immediately could feel the ground beginning to rumble. Snow began to melt, creating pillars of steam all around the statue, and then a flame erupted on its gigantic stone tongue. Through the heat shimmer, Miria could see something like a tunnel at the back of the mouth, and through it an orange landscape with dark mountains and rolling storm clouds.
Quick, get in the van.
I don't like the look of this.
Well, at least we'll be warm for a minute.
Well, I guess we don't have much of a choice, do we?
None at all. Close your eyes if you have to, or focus on picking a snake trap.
The van lifted up and plunged into the flaming mouth of Ymir. For a moment, all was smoke and shimmer and light, and then they burst out the other side into intense, withering heat. Below them, a parched desert caked in ash. On the horizon, ranges of volcanoes, and above, whirling clouds of ash and smoke. Embers danced through the air like fireflies or strange birds, and the metal of the van began to groan immediately. Behind them, a colossal statue of another giant, its mouth wide open, billowed fog, smoke, and rapidly melting flakes of snow.
This plane is Muspelshine. It is a plane of elemental fire and magma. It is also a plane strongly affiliated with chaos. The local entities are dangerous and unpredictable.
Great. I'm looking forward to when we actually find a plane where creatures are friendly.
Move over and let me drive. I need you to figure out a way to keep our vehicle from melting.
Well, at least we can see where we're going. Let's get there fast. Put that pedal down.
With Kale at the wheel, they sped on, trapped between a shimmering, blazing ground and an ever-twisting cloud of ash and smoke above. Fast, ever onwards, into the heat shimmer. Swords Against Madness is played, written, and performed by Brian C. Rideout. Editing, mastering, and audio production were from Stormhead Productions. All sound effects are licensed from Pixabay. This episode featured the voice talents of John Cohen from Tale of the Manticore as the All-Knowing. The opening theme was King Edward by Mr. Smith, a Creative Commons by attribution song released through the Free Music Archive. This episode also included Stone Caravan by Vlad Onakov, Dimensional Rift Countdown Trailer by Alex Grohl, Jack the Lumberer, and Scorched Fields by Alexander Nakarada, Gritty Blues Riff by Catch-22 Music, Crow at the Gallows by Son of Evan, Pipeline Rock by Matthew Cole, Wanderer by Imia Rek, Nepal by Abydos Music, and Wild Trail by Sergei Pavkin. The end theme is Acid Core by Jumping Bunny, all courtesy of Pixabay. I also love hearing from you all. Don't be a stranger. Feel free to contact me on X at SwordsVMadness or swordsvmadness@stormheadproductions.ca if you want to email me. You can also find me on the Stormhead Productions channel on YouTube. If you want to support the show, please rate, review, like, and share with your friends. Or if you want to see just how weird I can get, check out my imprint, Death Trap Games. I have different games on DriveThruRPG and itch.io. And as always, play hard, roll high, and think weird.